loading a program, updating a program into a grill controller. We open this flip door and we're going to insert a flash drive into this, and the software will be preloaded onto a flash drive. Okay. Before we do that though, there's a couple things we're going to do. The first one is we need to disconnect the cord off of the J10 jack here, and this is the plug for the remote handheld keypad. The second thing that has to be disconnected is this PLAN connection, which stands for Private Local Area Network, and that is the daisy chain between multiple units. Okay. Now, before we update a program, there's several things that you need to look at. You start at the Desert Air home screen, you press the escape key, you scroll down to where it says Unit Revision, you press the Enter key, press the up and down arrow keys simultaneously, and it'll pop up a factory configuration screen. This screen, to access the screen, password is, so I'll press the Enter key, press the Enter key again to highlight this. This is one large scrolling number. So we're going to go to press the Enter key. Now you're in the factory setup menus, and we're going to look at the controller setup first. And you're going to take notes or photograph these screens. GS50 defines the tonnage of the unit. These screens here, the water-cooled section is off, the condenser control is off, the CO2, some units will be on, some units will be off, depending on the unit, whether it has it. This controller address right here is the PLAN address number, and we have to select an address for that based on the trunk. Usually address 1 starts with the air gate box or the air guard box, and it just goes down the line through the units, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Once we select that address or record it, go to the next screen and photograph this. We're using the zone sensor. You can set temperature to Fahrenheit. The pressure differential. Are you using a photocell on this particular unit? The lead units use photocells, the second stage units do not. Okay. The exercise mode remains on, and this BMS does remain disabled because we activated it at another location of the controller. Second screen. This right here, the Modbus alarm is what you're looking at, and that is actually what this alarm is here. On this particular job site, we're going to use the network sensor. So what we're going to do is we're going to disable the Modbus alarm in this one, and we'll go through it in the factory setup mode. And the way that you highlight it by pressing the Enter key, and then use the up or down arrow keys to change it. Okay. Next one is the unit serial number. These are the last 5 digits of the serial number off the nameplate, and we will input those once we load the new software. The reason why we're looking at all these screens and recording this data is because when we put the new program in, everything will go back to default and we have to reset these up. These are just temperature set points on and off. This right here where it says local is lead, that means the local controller, either this controller will be the first stage, and you can set it up so that the PLAN controls it. So when they go to a network sensor, you can have the PLAN number 10 is lead or 9 and so on. And these are the addresses that we put onto the controller based on whether they're using a network sensor, or if you have 2 units per grow room, we would say, like, if this is PLAN number 7 and the paired up unit is PLAN number 8, we would say PLAN number 7 is lead, and then 8 would be saying the same thing. Okay, so 8 would say use PLAN number 7 then. Okay, so we'll escape out of there. The next thing that we're doing here is we go down to the factory adjust screens, and everything here remains as default except for one setting, and that is if I scroll down one level, it says heating control. You have to make a selection here whether you run the auxiliary heater and the compressors at the same time, allow them to, or you can use the compressor section can only run without the, or the heater can only run without the compressor. So it's either they run together or one or the other. Okay. In this particular application, it was set up to run together. So I press the Enter key, I press the down arrow key, I press the Enter key again, and I could change it from yes to no. And this one was already set to yes. Okay. Press the Enter key and escape out. is one screen right here that you want to look at in the factory configuration mode prior to adding the flash drive or updating the program. These numbers you have to obtain from Desert Air. Every tonnage unit is different, and we use air proving stations to figure out the inches of water column with the CFM back at the factory. Each unit can also have a range of CFM. Okay, so the design of this particular unit is 15,000 CFM, which actually correlated to inches of water column of 242, and that was confirmed in the factory again. So we'll set this at 242. Now the low CFM, or the minimum DP, is always 2/3 of the maximum CFM. So in this case, it's going to be 10,000 CFM, and that actually correlates out to a 0.110 inches of water column for the minimum. Okay, so now we're set there. Press the escape key. That's everything in the factory setup mode that we look at. Okay, now we have to go one more place. We have to go to the service menu. The service menu is where we set up our deadbands and differentials. This menu, the password is always the same, and it's just 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you hit the down arrow key twice, it defaults to 1, 2, 3, 5, and then the second one is 1, 2, 3, 4. Press the enter key. We go to the unit setup. There's timer settings here that we want to look at. Everything else here remains as default, because once we're active on the web, we'll be able to control all the settings as far as staging parameters and that kind of stuff. The only thing that I want you to look at here is these timer settings. And the timer settings here, we have the fan delay, and we have a compressor delay. We have the blower setup. We have time delays for compressor on, off, that kind of thing. But when we go to this third screen, this one's already been set up. This airflow delay, we want to adjust to 90 seconds. It'll default at 15. Reason being is because we're using a VFD drive, and the VFD drive sometimes will take more than 15 seconds to start with the speed. And you'll get a nuisance airflow alarm. Okay. So once we record that data, now we can come back to the home screen, and we open the little flip door, and we can plug in a flash drive. When you plug in the flash drive, just give it a minute, and the controller will recognize the drive, and it'll say press the enter key to begin uploading a new program. So this is the screen that you'll see. You press the enter key right here, and it's uploading the verification, and it'll say please wait. When the program is complete, it'll give you this message to remove the drive. Go ahead and pull the drive out. Okay, so now our new program has been loaded into the machine. And you can verify the program when you come out, press the escape key once, and scroll down to where it says unit revision, press the enter key, and it'll give you the newest release to tell you you've had a successful load. And 3.3.11 is the one that we're loading in. Okay. Then we have to go back and reset up the controller. So now we're going to press the enter key, we're going to press the up and down arrow keys, and we're now going to implement that password again. Okay, so password goes in. Okay, now we're back in the controller setup, and notice it says unit type not set. So we press the enter key to highlight. We scroll through the menu items, and in this particular unit is a GS50. That's the type of unit it is. Okay, and you can get that number off of the nameplate. The nameplate's going to say QS50, but the GS stands for the Grower 50 ton. Okay. We press the enter key each time to move down the menu items. And the first time you make a selection, it's going to wait about 10 or 15 seconds before it'll let you move on, because it's inputting data in the background of the controller. Okay, hear a little click, then you know you can move on. Now if you remember, we're not using the water-cooled system, we're not using condenser control. The CO2 was off on this one, but this one was controller number 7, and I'm going to put that back in for demonstration purposes. So So I'm going to change it to controller number 7. My cursor goes back to the top of the screen, but notice that there's still a number 1 there for the controller because that's default. I scroll down. I'm going to use, we're using zone sensor, we're at Fahrenheit, we're using the photocell. All these things are still at default. Scroll down. This is where we input the Modbus sensor we're not using in this application, so we're going to disable the alarm. The serial number for the unit we're going to put in here, and it's 27731, and this is just one large scrolling number. So we'll press the up arrow key, and we're going to keep going till we get to 27731. And what this allows us to do is when we're looking at multiple units on AirGuard, we can actually see the serial number for each unit that we're looking at. 27731, 731. Okay. BMS type, this is a BACnet Ethernet card right here, so that is set correctly. We can change it to MSTP or press the enter key and it goes back to the top of the controller. Next page, these are temperature and relative humidity defaults. We'll leave them now because when the grower starts to populate the space, he's going to change those numbers to whatever he wants. Okay. I'm also going to leave this as local is lead right now just for demonstration purposes. Okay. We can change that also via AirGuard if necessary. Standard motor, that applies. Here we implement the CFM, and in this particular unit it's designed at 15,000 CFM. So we're actually going to plug that in there. And again, it's one big scrolling number, so it takes a little bit of time. $15,000 CFM. Back to this. Okay, so now we're back to the top of the page again. So we're done in the factory setup mode. Then we go down to the factory adjust. We look at these. Remember, all these are default except for the heating signal. And again, hit the down arrow key. And in this particular example, we are allowing the heat and the compressor to run simultaneously. So we're going to change this selection to yes. Okay. We're all done with the programming in the factory setup mode. Now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the service menu. Keep hitting the escape key until we get to the service menu. And again, this one you press the enter key again. And the password here is 1234, and it's always that password. So if you hit the down arrow key twice, it defaults right there. Press the enter key. And now we're going to go to the timer settings. Now this is the one that I am always concerned about, is the airflow delay. When we use a VFD drive, it's my preference to see this set at 90 seconds. And we'll go to the top of the page. Now we're finished with all of the programming. Last thing we have to do here is, now in order, notice the controller address is still at number 1. Now the next thing we have to do is cycle power to the controller for it to save all those changes that we did. So we unplug this little orange plug, which is the 24 volts to it, and we plug it back in. And now it's going to go through about a 20-30 second boot up process. Okay, so now the controller has rebooted itself back up, and you'll notice the address in the upper left hand corner is now address number 7. That tells you that it's retained that controller address. So you have now you've successfully installed a new program. And again, you can scroll down and look at your unit revision screen, and you can see that your new software has been implemented. That's installing the software into the primary controller. This is actually step 1 of a 2-step process. The second step is we have to go to the remote keypad inside the building, and we have to address that also. So we still continue to leave this PLAN disconnected, and we continue to leave the remote keypad disconnected until we're ready to program those keypads. Okay, setting the display address on the PGD or remote keypad. Press and hold the 3 keys together on the right. Address will pop up. The default address is 32. What we want to do is we want to pair it up to 27 with the controller address. Press the enter key. It'll tell you that the address has changed. Press the enter key again. The display will probably go blank. Once that happens, press and hold the 3 keys again. Press the enter key to advance to the next screen. Follow the prompts. Press the enter key. Change terminal 1 to 27. Oops, 27. Change the shared to private. Keep advancing. Terminal 2, there's nothing there, so you change that to none. None. Advance. Continue advancing, and then save changes. Now the controller's booted up and the keypad's been addressed and